Thanks so much, guys.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Watch Talk channel. Today we're delighted to be joined by Helen and Nikolaj, who are all the way from Denmark picking up a recent purchase from the Vintage Gold Watches store. We have a stunning Rolex Precision 35mm, and it's great to see it on your wrist. But how are you doing, guys? It's great to see you.
Thank you for being here.
Well, so yeah, today Nikolaj came in to pick up his new watch, and we're here filming in Pavilion in Kensington for the channel. Nikolaj told us the story behind this purchase, and we just felt we have to make a video about it, so that's what we're going to be doing today. And as we say, as stunning as the watch is, and we'll put some images on the screen, we really want to get into the whole story and the meaning behind this milestone purchase. So do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for the last 5 years?
Yes, of course. Actually, the watch is a gift from my wife, celebrating I handed in my doctoral thesis, which is on the use of machine learning, artificial intelligence, to identify cardiac arrests in patients calling 112, emergency medical helpline in Denmark. Cases: when a person collapses with cardiac arrest, you have a very limited time window to act and save the person's life, because chance of successful resuscitation declines approximately 10% per minute going by from collapse until you start performing resuscitation. Problem is, it's quite rare people know it's a person in cardiac arrest. They just witnessed a person collapsing, thinking it could be anything. First thing people always do is call 112, asking for help at the emergency medical services. And during the conversation, usually the cardiac arrest is recognized, and you go up to about 75% of the cardiac arrests being recognized, which leaves the last quarter of the patient only recognized when paramedics arrive in the ambulance. And these patients have a very dire prognosis and a little chance of successful resuscitation. So 5 years ago we got the idea, when we can ask our phone to show direction to the nearest coffee shop, can we get some kind of artificial intelligence to understand the call and help the dispatchers on the phone? And we started looking into, could we get this robot to recognize cardiac arrest? And actually we found that we could teach a machine learning model to find cardiac arrest, and it could also do it much better than the human dispatchers and increase recognition by 10%.
Amazing. So for those of us that aren't quite familiar with machine learning as a principle, could you explain it briefly in sort of layman's terms?
Machine learning is, put very simple, looking for patterns in the conversation. Just it's more commonly used in pictures where you can have machine learning identify a dog or cat, right, looking for signals in the picture. And in the same way, you can use a phone call looking for signals, because when people call about cardiac arrest, they usually describe a patient who is unconscious. Perhaps they report the patient is not breathing or having blue lips. Yeah. And those kind of patients are quite easily identified as being in cardiac arrest because you don't breathe. But there's a multitude of signals in these conversations. So when the patient is being described by the bystander, when you have a machine learning model who has interpreted thousands of historic calls with cardiac arrest.
Which you have?
Yes, which we have. We have been using machine learning to analyze about 200 or 300,000 calls. Wow. So this machine learning model has listened to thousands and thousands of calls with patients in cardiac arrest. So when they are listening to a new call, it goes like, oh, this sounds like something I've heard before. And this model has the same experience as the experience of a dispatcher who's been working for 50 years in a row. So, and apart from us humans, it's able to remember, because we cannot remember everything. But the machine learning model can, and can draw on this immense library of references to this sounds like cardiac arrest, because I've heard something similar, the same pattern in the conversation.
Incredible. So it's interesting on one level, but you know, the media chatter about sort of the negative sides of machine learning and privacy and all these things that, you know, we should be talking about these incredible implementations of machine learning and, you know, life-saving care. I just think it's fantastic. So I'll ask you, Helen, you mentioned earlier some of the complications and the issues that you run into when you're using cutting-edge technology on the front line. We mentioned privacy and the issues with machine learning in the past. With that, how were you able to sort of get around those issues?
I think the problem was that it was brand new, and
Sure.
therefore we had to invent new working methods every time, and we always got into trouble. It was the technology of the phones, the technology of saving the calls, the technology of recalling the calls.
Yeah.
All of these different items was we had to reinvent or innovate and invent again to actually get results.
Incredible.
Yes. It's when we started, we thought we could use some off-the-shelf speech-to-text technologies, but it turned out that a call to 112 emergency medical helpline is much different than when you ask your phone for directions, because the caller is in distress. Quite often they put the phone on the floor on speakerphone and shouts to the phone. Perhaps there's a lot of background noise. So we had to reinvent a specifically designed speech-to-text model for emergency medical calls. But it was possible, though a bit difficult.
Sure, I can imagine. Wow. So could you tell me a little bit about how implementation is going? Obviously it'll be a process, and but where are we up to so far?
Actually, we have made a randomized trial in Copenhagen EMS where we implemented this technology and measured how it worked in a real-life setting. And the good news was it works. Whenever some people call with cardiac arrest, the machine is able to recognize the cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, the dispatchers working with us on this have a lack of confidence in the machine, because they have their own professional pride and probably believe they are right, because the machine is a black box. It does not communicate the reasons for it believing this is a cardiac arrest. So the present situation is we have implemented it, and whenever this machine learning model finds reasons to believe there's a cardiac arrest, it sends an alert on screen to the dispatchers. There's no real evidence that this makes the dispatchers change the course of action, because we probably need to communicate better why it is so. But what we see now is we have a technology that works. We just need to get the human trust in the system to get on par with the technology.
And they actually decided in Denmark to roll out this system over the entire nation. So
Fantastic.
for all 5 regions in Denmark, we're going to have this cardiac arrest machine learning model.
Incredible. I bet that, I mean, how good does that feel? You know, you're potentially saving hundreds, thousands of lives yearly. You know, it's incredible.
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. I'll just round it back to the subject of the channel and back to the watch. I love the juxtaposition of, you know, how you've made this, you know, fantastic work. You've done this fantastic work in cutting edge technology, and you're celebrating the achievement with some may say antiquated, you know, traditional classic mechanical wristwatch. Why is that? How do you still have a passion for, you know, the old mechanical when you're, you know, working so well on, you know, the advanced side of things?
Well, I have always liked old things.
Sure.
I always liked things I could take apart, probably much to the frustration of my parents when I was a kid. But I think it's nice to have something that just works, whether there's a battery or not. And it's a beautiful clock.
Yeah. So, of course, it's always fantastic meeting customers face to face here in the pavilion in Kensington to, you know, do the handover and for you to pick up your watch. But it's been quite a journey with this particular purchase, isn't it? When was it that you first struck eyes on your Rolex?
Well, it's today it's about 18 months ago that I first got in contact with Alan from Vintage Watches London. And that was just, I think was in February. Well, COVID was still just something happening in China. Yeah. And when I went to collect the clock or watch, it turned out that the world has stopped. Yeah. And I couldn't get here. Since then, I've been very optimistically booking tickets, cancelling tickets, booking tickets again and cancelling tickets. And I think this is the 4th attempt to get the watch, and finally it's happened.
Yeah, well, I must say it's fantastic to have you both here, and the watch looks incredible on your wrist, so that's fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend here in London, and we hope to see you again in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.